Hi again, my lovelies. Welcome back to my channel. Before I get started, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for the overwhelming support on the last one. It took a lot for me to kind of open up and actually upload that video, and it got a lot more views and things than I was expecting, and I got a lot of lovely messages just saying that people are going to subscribe and kind of stay with the channel. They think they're going to find this content sort of really helpful, and that was just amazing. It definitely made me feel very emotional, so much appreciated. But in today's video, I really wanted to talk about depression and anxiety. So like I said, as I outlined in the last video, this is something I've struggled with for a long time, something that I'm currently struggling with quite severely. It's very debilitating, and I kind of wanted to start doing some of the symptoms that I kind of have, some of the symptoms that you might have, things to look out for if you like thinking you may have depression and anxiety, or you think someone else might have depression and anxiety, and how best to sort of support them. But mainly this video is about talking about it. I'm going to give you some sort of hints and tips on how to actually brave the subject of talking to people about it, and all that jazz. So hope you enjoy, and let's get started. So when my depression is bad, first thing I notice is my mood instantly changes. I start to feel very flat, and I feel very irritable. It's the first thing I notice, because usually I'm very laid back, I'm very chilled out, and I've usually got like a really long fuse. But as soon as my mood dips, everything just gets on my nerves. I feel so irritable. The tiniest thing like really annoys me, which is something, like I said, that I don't usually get. I usually just get very moody. My mum thinks I'm just moody all the time, and I get mood kind of swings. I can literally wake up the next morning and be like really happy, happy, but that's the sort of first thing I notice. With depression for me, I kind of feel like I've got this big sort of black cloud above my head, and that it's just constantly raining, and I am drowning in this rain, and I can't seem to get back to the surface, if sort of that makes sense. I feel so like ambivalent about life. I just feel like I feel so hopeless. I feel completely worthless. It affects sort of every part of my life. I lose total interest in anything that I want to do. Usually I've got lots of like hobbies and interests, things like music and baking, but all that sort of, I mean, music really does help me, but kind of baking and my hobbies sort of all go out the window. It's a big fat can't be arsed with life in general. I lose all my motivation, all my energy. I lose my direction, so then I sort of have like an existential crisis, and I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And it affects like my eating patterns. So usually when I'm down, I tend to eat everything, which is why I've kind of struggled with my weight for a very long time. This time round, this is the first time I've had an episode where I haven't wanted to eat, and that's very unusual for me. I don't know if that's because I've really hit rock bottom this time, but my appetite just completely went, so that can kind of go both ways. Obviously the same as sleep can. I know a lot of people struggle with insomnia with depression. I'm kind of the opposite. I sleep way too much. I mean, I never ever struggle to get to sleep, really. Mine is sort of struggling to stay asleep. I kind of toss and turn throughout the night. I'll have sort of really vivid dreams, nightmares that sort of wake me up in the night. I mean, also I've had a lot of nights where I've sort of cried myself to sleep. I get, sort of very tearful, very emotional. Little things can sort of make me cry, and I just sort of find it hard to keep my emotions in. But I'll do it in a sense where I don't show anybody, so I'll just, like I said, cry myself to sleep, because it's something that other people can't see, but it's a way sort of for me to release my emotions. And obviously I get a lot of negative thoughts, very, very dark thoughts. I have what I sort of call my inner critic, which calls me lots of different names, tells me I'm fat, tells me I'm ugly, tells me I'm worthless, tells me there's no point, I'm shit at what I do, I'm a shit nurse, that people don't like me, people are saying things about me, that I'm never going to amount to anything, I'm not going to have like a good future, that I may as well just give in now, people would miss me if I was gone, I would just be better off dead because no one would care, and it's hard because like I know that these thoughts are irrational, I know that this is just my head sort of playing tricks on me, but it's hard when that thought is there constantly 24/7 telling you these things, and it's hard not to believe it in that sense because it's there constantly, and you think, like, you look at somebody and the way they look at you and you're thinking, actually no, yeah, they're thinking all these things about me, they're thinking I'm fat, they're thinking I'm this, they're thinking I'm that, and your mind just totally plays a game with you, and it's hard to live in that mindset when you've got this demon in your head the whole time and you just cannot seem to get rid of it, and it's so difficult because everything you do, like for me, everything I do is wrong in my head, everything, down to like simple things like what I wear or what makeup I put on or how I have my hair or like what things I eat or what things I drink. It's literally tiny little things that like most people just take for granted, and yet in my head these are like the most difficult things that I do every day. Just getting out of bed is such a difficult thing when I'm in a real like low point, because I just think, well, why get out of bed? What's the point? And what's the point in life? I'm able to stay here, like I'm comfortable, you know, I'm not, but nobody's bothering me. I just stay here with my thoughts. But you feel just like it's hard because you don't want to tell people you feel this way, and especially I think around sort of feeling suicidal. I get very intrusive suicidal thoughts, and I have done for a long time. Just telling me I would be better, like I said, I would be better off dead. People wouldn't miss me. People wouldn't care if I died. It wouldn't be a big loss. And I know that's not true. I do know that's not true. But it's hard when that thought's in your head 24/7. And I know that like I wouldn't do it. I never could. I mean, for one, I don't think I'd have the guts. I mean, for two, I don't want to die. That's the thing. Like, I don't actually want to die. I just don't want to live like this anymore. I can't cope with this cycle of low mood and anxiety and these demons in my head 24/7. I can't. It's so hard. And obviously I have my family and I know that like I couldn't do it to them, but when you feel that way so much, you kind of start to believe it in a sense, and the longer you sort of live with it and the longer you have these thoughts, the more sort of appealing it becomes, which is the really sort of frustrating thing about it. But I mean, it affects my relationships because like sometimes I don't even text people back because I think, well, I'm going to say the wrong thing, I'm going to say something that offends them, I'm going to say something that they don't like, they're not going to want to be my friend anymore, or on the other hand I feel then guilty because they'll think, well, I don't want to talk to them, or I'm not talking to them enough, I'm not making the effort in the relationship. So I always feel like I'm stuck in the middle, and I've got like my rational thoughts and my irrational thoughts, and also my depression is my irrational thoughts. But these always seem to win because these are the loudest voice in my head. This is the loudest bit, and then you sort of get a little bit of this, and you sort of question it, but then this just gets louder, and this is the one that you always go with. But then you're always kind of, like, I'm always questioning it still, even when the louder voice wins. I'm always looking back and questioning it. But that's, like, I always say that actually my anxiety, I think, is a lot worse than my depression. I've been diagnosed with generalised anxiety disorder, which is just anxiety. We can have anxiety about anything and everything, basically. I also have social anxiety, and social anxiety is quite sort of a new one for me. I've always sort of been a very sociable person, but as my general anxiety has got worse, I found that I was having a lot more anxiety in public. I was having panic attacks, getting all sort of physical symptoms, like my heart was racing, I was sweating, my breathing changed, I felt sick, and sort of all these symptoms. But my anxiety just makes me question everything, every tiny little decision, every little thing that I see or do. I question it, and then I overthink it, and I catastrophize it in my own head, so I make it a million times worse in my head. And my brain gives me like a million scenarios, all bad. They always give me the worst case scenario, and that's pretty difficult. Like, for example, travelling is a big thing for me, especially with my social anxiety, my general anxiety. Like, travelling on like trains and buses and all that kind of thing is a real big one for me. And I do travel back and forth quite a lot between Doncaster and Manchester, and I have done that for about 4 years now. But for me, it's a big thing because, like, it starts with, well, I need to pack my case or whatever if I'm going for a few days. So then I'm stressing that I need to pack. What am I going to pack? What about if I forget something? If I pack the wrong thing? If I haven't packed enough? Am I going to get packed in time? And then in the morning I'm like, right, if my train's at like 10 a.m, well, I need to get up at 8 because I need to have enough time to get up, get ready, pack my last minute things, get to the train station. And I know for a full fact that I'm always at the train station about half an hour early, because my brain panics. It's like, but what about if the train comes early? And but you don't want to miss it. What about if there's traffic? What about if something happens on the way, like when I'm walking to the train station, if somebody stops me? What about if, like, I get mugged? What about if, and this is what my brain does. It's like, what if? So I'm playing out like a million scenarios in my head, which makes me super like organise things. And then when I finally get to the train station like half an hour early, then I'm panicking that the train's going to be late and I'm just going to be stood here, or like that someone's going to come on the train station, something's going to happen, something like really bad's going to happen, or like I'm going to get on the train and the train's going to crash, or like I'm going to get on the train, it's going to be late, I'm going to miss my connection, then what am I going to do? I'm going to get stuck at the train station. Especially with train stations that I don't know. Obviously Manchester and Doncaster are train stations I use a lot of the time. And to be fair, I know the routine. At Manchester I always get on the same platform, and at Doncaster I always get on at the same platform. But I panic. I'm like, well, what about if it's a completely different platform? What about if it's right at the other end of the station and I ain't got enough time to make it? Or like, even though I know my ticket's valid, but what about if they scan my ticket and it doesn't scan? What am I going to do? I can't afford to pay for another ticket. Or like, it's just all these sort of big decisions. And like, with knowing the train and the platform, I have to check it loads and loads of times. I have to check it, like, take Manchester Piccadilly for example, I'll check it on the really big board in the centre of Manchester Piccadilly. So I'm like, right, that's my train, that's my platform. Then I'll check on all the boards as I'm walking towards the platform that it's told me. And then when I get to the platform, I'm checking it again, making sure it's the right train, making sure it's got my station on the thing. And then I'll go on my phone and I'll check it again, making sure that it's that platform, that time. Like, yes. And then as long as those two sort of are the same, then I'll go onto the platform. But as soon as I'm on the platform, I'm checking it again and checking it again. And I will probably check it 5-6 times before I even get on the train. Well, even more, depends on how long I'm sat on the station. And then when I got on the train, I'm checking my phone again, and I'm checking the thing on the train which shows you what station it's going to stop at. And then I'm sitting in, and I'll take my earphones out to listen to the 10 announcement on the train, just to like quadruple check that I'm on the right train. And I'm always on the right train. I've never ever got the wrong train. And if, you know, there's ever been like cancellation or something, I've managed to always get to my destination. But in my head, that anxiety, like, it's so overwhelming. I feel so, just like I said, like I'm drowning. I feel so like snowed under, and like I've got the world on my shoulders, and it just feels like so much like pressure and stress. And then I honestly do start to feel very, very, very panicky. I've just got a constant sense of dread, constant sense of fear, constantly feel like something bad's gonna happen. It's like I've got like something in my stomach, and it kind of tells me my stomach's constantly doing somersaults, which kind of affects like my digestive system. I'm not going to go into detail, but it affects my like affects me physically. And you just feel like a total failure no matter what you do, and you just feel like a burden on people, because you think, well, why me? Why do I have to suffer like this? And when you really struggle, you do rely on people. You need that support, no matter how much people say, well, when I'm depressed, I like to be on my own. You need people. I do. I've been living on my own now for about 8-9 months, and it's hard. It's hard to come home and like not have someone there, you know, and just constantly feeling alone. But like for me, I could feel alone in a room full of people. I constantly feel alone, constantly feel like I don't fit in anywhere. I never feel like I have like connections with people. I feel like I'm just like a lost cause, and that sorry, my camera cut out there. But yeah, as I was saying, I constantly feel lonely, constantly feel alone. I feel like no one cares about me, no one wants me. You never feel good enough for anybody. You constantly like avoid situations because it's not worth the turmoil you go through in your head to have that sort of interaction with somebody. You feel like it's worse to actually go out and be social, because what your brain tells you just ruins ruins the whole night, ruins your evening. And you just don't feel good enough. You just constantly wish you were somebody else, because every time something happens, you just overanalyze it, and you just make things worse, and you actually feel like you're a difficult person to love, a difficult person to be friends with, a difficult person to know. You just constantly feel like you're problematic, and you're pushing your problems on other people, and you just think, well, they have their own problems, they're not going to want to listen to mine, and they're not going to want to take time out of their day to deal with my shit when they've got so much going on in their heads and in their own lives. So you always tend to sort of keep things locked in. But if you're anything like me, when you do actually go out, you know how to cover it up, you know how to mask it, you know how to put on a brave face, and then people like just don't guess, and you'd sort of rather it be like that, because I know, like, if my brave face isn't working and my mental health is overwhelming me, you can see it in my face, and then people are like, are you okay, like what's wrong? And you don't want to say, oh, I've got all these negative thoughts in my head, I've got these demons, and my brain's telling me to kill myself right this minute. And people tend to look at you like gone out, and they don't know what to say to you, they don't know what to do. So you just kind of feel like it's easier to avoid that conversation completely, but avoid the social interaction. But we as humans are known to be social. We've got this pattern that wants to be social, that wants to be, you know, liked by people, that wants to be loved by somebody, you know. And I think when you feel this way, you do feel like you're hard to love. I always feel like that. I always feel like, well, no one's ever going to want to be with me. Who's going to want to be with someone that has this mindset that is constantly overanalyzing things, overthinking things, constantly low in mood, constantly suicidal, questioning everything, you know, not wanting to do much, just having no motivation, having no energy, constantly talking about feeling guilty, you know, and constantly like that actual just saying, well, I'm not good enough for you. And then that person has to kind of reassure you. You're just like, well, I don't want to be babysat by somebody. I mean, maybe that's just me. It's like, I don't want to be pandered to. I want people to go, oh, you know, you are good. You know, it's like, I want to kind of do these things for myself, but just listen to me. That's all I want, is just someone just to sit and just like, just sit and listen. It's all I need. Once it's out of my system, I genuinely feel a hell of a lot better. But I know that, you know, some people don't have that opportunity. Some people will move on to sort of medicating themselves, which then just kind of makes things worse. Because I know, I don't know if you class it as sort of paranoia, but I do get very paranoid, especially sort of in public, like I said, which is, I think, is just based around my anxiety and my sort of self-esteem. But like when I'm in public, I'm paranoid about people talking about me, people saying things, people thinking things about me. I think, well, they stared at me strangely. They think I'm this, they think I'm that. But I know that like when I touch alcohol, which I'll cover in sort of a separate video, but when I touch alcohol, I get very paranoid because it makes me wonder like what I did. Did I make a fool of myself? Did I do something stupid? Did I say something to somebody that I shouldn't have? Did I do something I shouldn't have? Did like I come on to somebody and I shouldn't have? Did I, you know, there's all these things that go around in my head, and it's that constant fear of, did I do something that I should be embarrassed about? Which then just ruins that whole thing for me. And I mean, obviously it's proven that alcohol and mental health don't really come hand in hand, and although it helps at the time, alcohol is a depressant and is only going to make the situation worse in the end. But on the same hand, I can't take criticism. I can't take someone telling me that I did something wrong. You know, I'm always like saying, well, did I do something stupid last night? But then I'm actually like, no, don't tell me, because if I did do something stupid, I'm going to ruminate on it, and that's going to take over, because I'm just going to be sitting and I'm thinking, well, what do people think about me now? And do people still like me? And will people still want to like hang around with me? And will that person tell other people? And then will I get some sort of like reputation for this one silly mistake that I made? And will I be known for that stupid mistake? And this is what I mean about my head, in the way that it plays with me. Because my head is constantly just on overdrive. My head goes 200 miles an hour all the time, and I can't seem to kind of break it, because it's constantly there, and I've tried a lot of things to sort of slow it down, but I can't slow it down 24 hours a day. And that's the main point that I'm trying to sort of get across, is that this interferes with my everyday life. This makes my daily life difficult. It makes everything I do difficult, and everything I do is 10 times harder because of the way that my head plays with it. So if, you know, I mean, I've talked about a lot of symptoms there, and obviously depression and anxiety is different for every person. You might have completely different symptoms to me. I mean, there's obviously some overarching symptoms in terms of like low mood, lack of enjoyment, feeling on edge, feeling agitated, feeling paranoid, sort of this lack of self-care, losing interest in things like a motivation, even your memory, things like that, feeling guilty, feeling like a burden, suicidal thoughts in particular, you know, and all this sort of having these negative thoughts in your head. Please, if you have any of these symptoms, I mean, you may think, well, I get low at times, and you know what, everyone gets low at times. Everyone suffers with depression and anxiety at some point. You know, if you were to lose your job, break up with somebody, lose a member of your family, you know, go through a difficult time, have a severe illness, you know, all these kind of things, you are going to feel low, and that's a given. That's just the way our bodies work, that you are bound to feel sad and upset, and you might sink into a bit of a depression. But when that interferes with your everyday life, then you know that there's something more going on, you know, because to me, mental health is a spectrum. You've got mental health and kind of, so good mental health and sort of poor mental health. And, you know, you're going to move up and down this spectrum throughout your life. Some people stay at this end, some people stay at this end, and some people stay dead in the middle. But you can guarantee that, you know, 99.9% of people are going to sort of move up and down this spectrum. Like I said, whenever you've got like a significant life event that affects your mood and your mental health, and things like anxiety, like an exam, doing an exam, or speaking in front of people, or taking your driving test, you know, all these like situations that are going to fuel your anxiety, they're fine. And anxiety is good in a lot of ways. Like I said, especially for like exams and stuff, it makes you organise, it makes you prepare, and it's normal, it's natural. You know, we've got the fight or flight response in our body. So, you know, when the adrenaline goes, and you're getting ready for something, you are bound to get some form of anxiety. But it's that, does it interfere with your daily life? Does it make your life a struggle? And you may not have noticed that you have some of these symptoms. You may think, well, you know, sometimes I feel down, or sometimes I do overthink things, which, you know, like I said, a lot of people might do. But please be aware of it interfering with your life. Once it starts to take over, this is when you need to talk to somebody about it. You know, I didn't talk about it for a very long time. I was hiding it for a long time, and I actually didn't realise how bad it was. I just thought like all these things I was suffering with, all these symptoms that I've sort of outlined, they were just normal. And people, like I said, oh, people get low, people get anxiety, you know, it's just a normal everyday occurrence, it's fine, I'll manage. And actually I weren't managing, and my symptoms were severe. You know, when if you haven't been to your GP, they'll normally get you to do like a depression and anxiety scale, and I was severe in both. I scored really highly in both the depression scale and the anxiety scale, and I didn't honestly realise how bad my anxiety was, and how bad my depression was. I just thought it was kind of normal in a sense. That's just how I was, that's just how I was programmed. Nothing was ever going to change. I didn't think like actually talking about it or going to a GP was going to really help anything. I was just like, he's just going to think I'm being stupid, because everybody suffers with things like this. And actually, the severity of my illness made my GP quite worried. And I think the first time I spoke to someone about it, I actually spoke to my mum about it. She was the first person to really know the full extent of my mental health. And when I first spoke to her, she was like, that's not normal. That's, well, not like in a negative way, but she was like, if that's not what every person suffers with, like that's severe, like you need to get help. And the more I talked about my daily life, the more I talked about the symptoms I was dealing with, it kind of made me realise, because I was thinking, well, I said all that stuff with this and that, and you know, I outlined all those symptoms, and there's a lot of symptoms there's a lot of things that I deal with every single day. And it just sort of made me realise how bad it was. And that was the turning point for me. The first time that I had that conversation with my mum, I realised how bad it was. And that time I went to the GP, I mean, that was like my 4th, 5th time at the GP. But that time felt very different. I felt very adamant that I needed some help. And I did get it. Well, I got antidepressants, but you know, it was a step. And I actually went, I mean, I probably haven't got a lot of people on my channel that like metal music. You might do, you might not. If you do or you don't, well, if you do, you might know a band called Bury Tomorrow. Now, I saw them on tour just before Christmas, which was an incredible show. And the lead singer, Dan, is a really huge advocate for mental health, and he's actually my biggest inspiration because, you know, he's had a really bad time with his mental health and, you know, over his life. And actually he uses that experience to help other people. And during the tour, he created a safe space so his fans could go and really talk about their mental health. And I went to the Manchester safe space, and it was a really lovely group. There was a lot of us, and obviously Dan sort of chaired it, and then we had a lady called Bryony who went through some sort of meditation and mindfulness stuff with us, which was really useful. But what that did is it opened a discussion. So many people there, including myself, were so incredibly nervous, so anxious, so scared to even mention the word. We had to do an icebreaker and sort of talk about our mental health, and you could see that so many people struggled to do that. But as soon as we'd spoke about it, and as soon as you'd gone around the room and you'd heard everybody else's story, you knew instantly that you weren't alone. You knew that people were going through exactly what you were going through, and that made it so much easier. As soon as people had got over that first initial hurdle, the thing flowed. People were really sharing stories, sharing things that they'd never shared with anyone before, sharing really, you know, sort of dark things, really bad things that happened to them, and how long they'd been struggling and the things that they'd been through. And although the content of the discussion was obviously quite dark, it was very uplifting, because knowing that you're not alone is the biggest thing. It really is. The second you realise that so many people are going through what you're going through, it makes it so much easier. Because I know that when I was going through it, I felt like I was the only person that understood it, that knew what it was like, that had these really, really severe symptoms. Actually, it's so common. And as soon as I knew that, like, I started this channel because I wanted to get my story out there in the hope that someone else might share theirs. And that's what it's about. Get your story out there. It doesn't matter how you do it, whether you talk to a family member, a friend, a teacher, someone you work with, your boss. It could be an online friend. It could be on a blog. I started a blog a while ago, but I haven't really picked it up since. Something like this, like YouTube. I don't know how many people are going to watch it. Nobody could watch it, but the fact is that I've got it off my chest. I've spoken about it. I've put it out there. Even if you just wrote it down, have a diary. I've literally, for this video, I've written down all the symptoms that I suffer with. Obviously just to prompt myself, but write it down. Keep a mood diary. Note down every single day how your mood's been. Simple things, just so that it's not in here, make the biggest difference. And honestly, I know that talking about it is probably the most frightening experience that you'll have, but once you've got over that hurdle, life is so much easier. It really, really is. I really encourage you to talk about it. Go into that safe space, even though it was just a couple of hours, talking about how we were all feeling and giving us some sort of hints and tips and that kind of stuff. Really changed my perspective on how I wanted to deal with my mental health, and how I wanted to sort of get my story out there, and how I wanted to help other people going through what I'm going through. And the initial way is literally to admit I'm struggling with mental health. That is your biggest hurdle, is just to literally say the words, I am struggling and I need help. Once you admit that you need help, everything is easier, I promise you. Even though I know how difficult it is, it took me so long to finally admit that my mental health was overwhelming me and that I couldn't cope. And although I am still in a dark place, I know that I'll get there. I know that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. I know that I can do it, I can manage it. Yeah, sorry. And I just hope that at least just even if one person watches this video and talks about their story to somebody and starts off that journey, then I've done something good today. So please, if you do have any of those symptoms that I've outlined, if you struggle in any of the same ways that I do, and you are struggling alone, please do not suffer alone. That is the hardest thing. Please, please, please speak about it. Struggling alone isn't going to get you nowhere. You're just going to keep struggling. And the longer you struggle, the harder it gets. Share it with somebody. People will listen. Your brain will tell you that nobody cares about it. But believe me, the second you talk, people do care. They do. Your family, your friends, anybody that you've got a relationship with. And like I said, if you don't have a relationship with somebody, video it, blog it, write it down, do something to get it off your chest. Because that's the most difficult bit, is when that's why you feel overwhelmed, because it's all in your head and you've got no way of getting it out. So I've gone on a bit of a rant there, but I hope that this video has sort of been helpful, because there's a lot of symptoms that people don't speak about. When you look at depression and anxiety online, there's a list of sort of a few symptoms that people suffer with that are the main symptoms, but they don't talk about all the other things that come with it. And I might have mentioned some symptoms that people had never even thought about being a symptom of mental health. Like I said, I just thought it was a daily occurrence. So I do hope that this was helpful in some way. If you have any questions about anything that I've mentioned in this video, you can leave me a comment, you can DM me on Twitter or Instagram, and I will help you the best I can. I can put you onto the right people, signpost some things, give you some hints, give you some tips, and if you do feel brave enough to share your story, then please do. So yeah, I'm gonna round off this video because I have talked for a very long time, and if you've actually made it to this part of the video, then I salute you, because this has been a long one. But I think all these videos are generally going to be pretty long ones, in all honesty, because I ramble on, and I could talk for England. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it and I hope you found it useful. If you think there's anyone that you know struggles, send them the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everybody.